What did you mean by Senate malapportionment? What does that mean?
Well, Senator Lee, I just want to be clear.
I want to know what you meant by Senate malapportionment. I'm not familiar with that term. What does it mean?
Senator Lee, I was responding to an ongoing debate, news reports at the time that there were state legislators who, even before the election, were contemplating fabricating some sort of pretext by which they could ignore their state's own votes for president and directly select
Not
did
what
not mean.
Senate malapportionment means. We both know that.
You say, quote, Republicanism is an anti-democratic virus?
No, Senator, I don't believe I've used those words.
Okay, you're under oath now.
Yes, Senator, I don't believe I've used those words.
Right. If you did use those words, will you pull down your nomination?
Senator, I don't believe I've used those words.
But do you generally tweet things that you don't mean?
Well, Senator Kennedy, I've contributed to the coarseness on Twitter sometimes by pushing the envelope to break through.
Right, but when you did it, did you mean it?
It's hard for me to respond to that kind of generally, Senator Kennedy, without a specific
You're a smart
example.
guy. Sure you can. You either meant it or you didn't. You got two choices, door A, door B.
Once again, Senator Kennedy and Mike Lee just destroyed this radical nominee, who thought he could waltz into federal power, after publicly trashing half the country. This guy's Twitter feed reads like a late-night rant from a political activist, and when Kennedy cornered him on whether he actually meant those attacks, he folded faster than a cheap suit. Then, Senator Lee stepped in, and obliterated him with pure constitutional knowledge. Lee reminded everyone that the Senate's equal representation isn't just tradition. It's the one part of the Constitution that can never be changed. And this nominee had the nerve to mock it. This wasn't just a grilling. This was a constitutional masterclass. Kennedy and Lee didn't just expose a radical. They exposed the deeper problem in today's left. Contempt for the very system that protects our freedom. You're about to see what happens when truth meets arrogance on Capitol Hill. So before we roll the full clip, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here on Talking GOP, we don't just react. We remind America what real leadership sounds like.
You've described yourself as a, quote, wild-eyed sort of leftist. Do I have that right?
Senator, I think I was referring to a caricature of the way that I think other people may have described me, not how I would describe myself. And I want to assure you that I understand that the role of a judge is to set aside whatever personal views that person may have.
I heard your testimony. Have you called Republicanism, well, strike that. Did you say, quote, Republicanism is an anti-democratic virus?
No, Senator, I don't believe I've used those words.
Okay, you're under oath now.
Yes, Senator, I don't believe I've used those words.
Okay.
I do remember saying last year that there was a loss of confidence in our elections that has spread kind of like a virus.
Right, well, that's a long way from calling the Republican Party an anti-democratic virus.
Yes, it's very different, and I don't believe I used those words, Senator.
Right. If you did use those words, will you pull down your nomination?
Senator, I don't believe I've used those words.
But if you did, will you withdraw?
It's hard for me to imagine a scenario in which I would
I'm just
use
saying,
those
assume
words.
it. If you said it, will you withdraw?
If I were quoting someone else saying it to describe that kind of sentence, I wouldn't be expressing my own views. But Senator, I don't believe I've ever used those words. I've represented.
Did you when you sent out those personal tweets about Senator Cotton, Senator Blackburn, and Senator Cornyn? Did you mean them at the time?
Without hearing those tweets, Senator Kennedy, it's hard for me to remember precisely, what was said or what I was thinking at the time. I do very much regret the tone that I've taken on social media from time to time. I know that I've crossed the line from time to time, and
When you crossed the line, did you mean it?
Without knowing the specific context or the specific tweet that you're referring to, Senator Kennedy, it's kind of hard for me to say, but
But do you generally tweet things you don't mean?
Senator Kennedy, I would agree with you that Twitter has become a very coarse place.
I don't
and
want to debate Twitter. Do you generally tweet things that you don't mean?
Well, Senator Kennedy, I've contributed to the coarseness on Twitter sometimes by pushing the envelope to
Right,
break
but
through.
when you did it, did you mean it?
It's hard for me to respond to that kind of generally, Senator Kennedy, without a specific
You're a smart
example.
guy. Sure you can. You either meant it or you didn't. You got two choices, door A, door B.
Well, Senator Kennedy, I know that I pushed the envelope.
Okay,
And
you regret it?
I do regret it, Senator.
Do you regret it because you didn't mean it? Or do you regret it because it might cause you not to be confirmed?
Senator Kennedy, I regret it because I think it's contributed to the coarseness of our discourse overall, and I think it would be
When
better.
did you have this epiphany that everybody has equal dignity and worth? When you were nominated, or
Well, I believe you're.
including Republicans?
Well, I believe you're referring to my religious faith.
No, I'm not.
Senator.
I'm referring to your coarseness.
Well, the equal dignity and worth is a principle of my religious faith, Senator.
It's also a principle of morals and good judgment. I'm over. Mr. Ho, you're a smart man, I can tell. But I think you're an angry man. And I really have great concerns about voting for you. We don't need federal judges who are angry. We need federal judges who are fair and can see both points of view. And you said these things.
Does the Constitution sometimes compel results in particular cases that are unpopular or contrary to the will of a majority of Americans?
Yes, Senator Lee, I think the purpose of the Constitution is to put, well, one of the purposes of the Constitution anyway, is that it serves a counter-majoritarian function and puts a few issues of individual civil rights and liberties beyond
Beyond debate, yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. What did you mean by this? We've got limited time, so I want to ask you some specific questions. What did you mean by Senate malapportionment? What does that mean?
Well, Senator Lee, I just want to be clear. I think I misinterpreted your tweet, and I regret that I did that, and I want to apologize to you.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the apology. I want to know what you meant by Senate malapportionment. I'm not familiar with that term. What does it mean?
Senator Lee, I was responding to an ongoing debate, news reports at the time that there were state legislators who, even before the election, were contemplating fabricating some sort of pretext by which they could ignore their state's own votes for
It
president.
doesn't describe Senate malapportionment. It appears to me that what you mean by that is you're challenging the principle of equal representation among the states, notwithstanding their different populations.
Well, Senator Lee, I just want to make clear, obviously, we have a federal system, and the apportionment of 2 senators per state is instantiated in Article 2 of the Constitution. If I were confirmed...
Is that malapportionment?
No, Senator Lee, I wouldn't describe it that way.
But you did.
But Senator Lee, I guess what I was trying to respond to was this notion that was being bandied about that state legislators who...
That doesn't explain Senate malapportionment. There's no planet on which that could be interpreted that way. Are you aware that the Constitution itself makes one thing preemptively unconstitutional? There is one feature of the Constitution that cannot, under the terms of the Constitution, be amended. Are you aware of what that is?
Senator Lee, I don't believe in my 15 years of practice in courts around the country that particular issue has come up in any of my
Well, yeah, because
cases.
it's not litigated, because it's in the Constitution, but it's there in the text. It's what you derisively referred to as Senate malapportionment. It's the principle of equal representation in the Senate. It's the one feature of the Constitution that cannot, may not, must never, ever be amended. The fact that you referred to it derisively, along with, by the way, denigrating the Electoral College itself and the Supreme Court of the United States, the superior court, the court of last resort to which you'd be answerable if confirmed to this position, is deeply troubling to me. I don't know how we're supposed to confirm you to this. Now, this has nothing to do with how you feel about any elected official, me or otherwise. It has everything to do with your open contempt for the Constitution, which I know of no other way of reading this, including that one feature of the Constitution that can't be amended. How do you serve as a federal judge when you've denigrated the Supreme Court, apparently under the theory that they're operating as some sort of partisan hacks, and other essential features of the Constitution? How do you defend that? How do you stand here and say that you can be supported in being appointed to an office whose job it is to interpret that document and to adhere to those precedents made by the Supreme Court that you've derided?
Senator Lee, in that tweet, I was trying to caricature a view that I thought that others had about the right that they would have to directly select their own state's presidential electors and to ignore the will of voters entirely.
That's
I certainly
not
did
what
not mean,
Senate malapportionment means. We both know that, and you're under oath. Thank you.
No, watching that exchange, I couldn't help but think, this is exactly why Americans have lost faith in Washington's so-called neutral institutions. Here's a man who wants a lifetime seat on the federal bench, a position meant to uphold the Constitution, and yet, he's spent years mocking the very people who live by it. Senator Kennedy saw right through the act. Every time he asked a simple yes or no question, the nominee squirmed. Did you mean it? Do you tweet things you don't believe? And he just couldn't answer. That's not humility. That's arrogance disguised as regret. Kennedy wasn't just questioning a man. He was revealing a mindset. One that says, I'm smarter than the people I disagree with. One that treats the Constitution as a suggestion instead of a sacred contract. And when Kennedy said, we don't need angry judges, we need fair ones, that hit home. Because what he really meant was, we can't let bitterness sit on the bench. Then came Senator Mike Lee. Cool, composed, and absolutely surgical. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He took that nominee's own words, Senate malapportionment, minoritarian rule, and turned them into a mirror showing how little respect this man has for the system our founders designed. Lee's point was devastating. The Senate structure, 2 senators per state, is constitutionally untouchable. It's not malapportioned. It's the balance that keeps mob rule in check. And when someone hoping to become a judge mocks that foundation, they're not qualified to interpret the law, they're qualified to undermine it. This wasn't just about one nominee. It was about the deep divide between those who believe in America's founding principles and those who want to rewrite them in the name of ideology. I'll say this, Kennedy and Lee showed us what defending the Constitution looks like, not just with words, but with courage. And the nominee? He showed us what happens when political activism meets real accountability. Leans forward slightly. If we want to keep our republic strong, we need more senators like Kennedy and Mike Lee, men who don't just talk about the Constitution, but fight for it. So tell me in the comments, who do you think made the stronger point today, Kennedy or Lee? And if you stand for truth, logic, and the American way, hit that like button and share this video, because this right here, this is Talking GOP.